Today we're making green enchilada chicken casserole, and the ingredients that you will need are 1 can of pinto beans at 16 ounces, a 10-ounce can of green enchilada sauce, a 4-ounce can of diced green chilies, about 6 ounces of chicken. I'm using shredded rotisserie chicken, but you could also brown some ground chicken or saute some chicken. I have about 4 ounces of onion that is frozen and chopped. I have 4 tablespoons of sour cream. I'm using light. I have a 1/4 cup of Mexican cheese. I have a 1/2 tablespoon of cumin and a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, a tablespoon of butter, and some white corn tortillas. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of oil in the pan, which is nice and toasty, and I'm going to add the beans to warm them. Just give them a few stirs around to start the warming process, because all we are really doing is softening them up and warming them. Then you want to add your frozen onion or your chopped onion if you prefer to use fresh, and let that cook down a little bit until they're a little bit translucent. I'm using about a medium-high heat. If it seems to be too hot for you and everything is burning, then just go ahead and either lift your pan off the burner for a little bit, or just turn it down some. Now that you've gotten that in, you're going to add your butter and let that melt down. That will also help get some of the bits up off the bottom of the pan. And then you're going to add your seasonings. Again, if you feel like you need salt and pepper, go ahead and add it to taste. I don't really use a lot of salt or pepper, so I'm not adding any. So once your beans are really kind of mushed up like that, I'm going to take the great old potato masher and mash them a little bit more so it gives me a little bit of a refried bean texture. But I'd like to leave a few extra chunks. I went ahead and put the bean mixture in my pan that I'll bake this in. You can go ahead and preheat your oven to 400 degrees. Next, you're going to add the sour cream, the chicken, the green chilies. I'm adding the whole can. That'll make it a little bit spicier and a little bit more wet. But if you don't want it to be as spicy, you can add fewer. And then I'm going to take the green enchilada sauce and start adding it. I like to be able to dip, and it does cook down a little bit when you put it in the pan, in the oven. But if you want it to be a little thicker, you can also take the sauce and reduce it by half on the stove before you get the recipe started. I've put probably about 9 of the 10 ounces in, and then I take my casserole dish, or I'm using a bread pan because it's not very much food, and then you just pour over top of your bean mixture. And spread it out so it's even, and then you're going to sprinkle your cheese on top. Mike always likes the cheese when it gets a little brown, so if you would prefer not to have that, you can put it in between the 2 layers, or you can omit the cheese completely. So the casserole part is done, and now it's going to go into the oven for about 15 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and make some homemade tortilla chips. I have corn tortillas here. These are the street taco size, but you can get any size corn tortilla. You just want to make sure that they are well oiled. So I take a little bit of cooking spray and just spray each one, and then brush it around. Make sure you get all the way to the edges. And then if you want to, you can add a little bit of salt. Here is one place I do like salt. I'm using pink Himalayan salt that's really finely crushed, but you can use table salt or whatever you have. And then just pop those in the oven alongside your casserole. And those should cook about 14 minutes, so check them at 7 and flip them over. And then I'll show you when we're done. I baked the enchilada casserole for about 14 minutes, and then to get the beautiful brown on top, I put it under the broiler for about 2 or 3 more minutes. I took the enchilada chip or the tortilla chips out at about 14 minutes, keeping in mind that I flipped them over about halfway through, and as you can see, they get a pretty decent snap on them. You can use bag chips if you want to, but I went ahead and tried making some on my own that were maybe a little more healthy. So that is the green enchilada casserole. I will put my inspiration recipe in the details, and I hope you enjoy it.